It's Craggy's Connacht Rugby Podcast. It's the Ulster game on the 23rd of December. The last time we had a game here, William, and I've got William Davis with me, we're about an hour before kick-off. Connacht had a great win against Ulster on this date, but I think it might be a bit tighter tonight.
Yeah, it's a very important game for them. It's essentially it's a must-win for Connacht. If they go 4-6 in this situation, I would say their chances of getting into the top 8 are severely reduced. Connacht come in on the back of 3 wins, Ulster come in on the back of 3 defeats. Disappointing loss to Leinster and one poor and one average performance in Europe. So they need a win as well. They're doing a bit better in the URC than Connacht are, but both sides are under pressure for slightly different reasons. Strong Connacht side. Obviously, there's a couple of players on long-term injury now, but they're not under the sort of pressure that Ulster are under. Ulster are missing some pretty heavy hitters, the likes of Rob Herring, Robert Balakoon, to name just 2, and that will put a bit of pressure on them. They've got a very inexperienced player at out half, who is really a scrum half in Doak, and it's up to Connacht to disrupt them. They're a team that play to a pattern, and I think if you can get at them, which is what happened to them at Sale, they can get very shapeless very quickly. And it's important for Connacht. Every time they make a mistake, Ulster punish them, and if that means kicking lots of penalties, kick them. If you get a chance, kick them. Just keep the game moving along, and it's an 80-minute game. You can put a game away late.
Which Connacht have been doing somewhat recently. They're starting to wear teams down, old style, putting a lot of pressure on, using their forwards. That's up to you get the backs to click a bit better tonight. But it's a good looking backline. Yeah,
it is a good looking backline. It's probably the strongest backline that they can put out at the moment. Big job for Jack Carty, back after the 2 games off, just to drive it on and settle it down for them. Make the right decisions. Decision making will be absolutely key. I think Connacht will win.
So do I. Well, we're going to work through it. You're going to be up in the media box today, so I'll be using Danny for the updates during the game, and we'll talk to you after the match.
Okay, Danny, we're about 5 minutes away from the kick-off. It just stopped raining again. It's rained and stopped and started about 3 times in the last 10 minutes. But that was a bit of fun as Connacht came in. Ulster decided they were coming in at the same time, and Jack Carty made sure he was the first across the line.
Yeah, there's a few guys pushing in there as well. Josh Murphy not taking a step back, and Conor Oliver in there as well. Oh yeah, you love a bit of that, just proper rivalry. So I'd say it's going to be a nice fiery one during the game. But the wind is a nice swirling wind. As I look at the flags now, they're nearly dropped to nothing. So I feel like that's going to change over the game. And as you say, the rain is dropping off, but expect a couple of showers during the game as well.
And of course the pitch is looking perfect, as it always is these days. So what are you expecting? Connacht win?
I think it's going to be a tight game, but I think Connacht have enough. I don't think this Ulster team are as resilient as they should be. If Connacht can hold them out, frustrate them, Connacht get a couple of early scores, why can't we just go on and win this? I don't think the Ulster team will be able to pull back.
Okay, well, we'll talk again in 20 minutes to see if we did get those early scores that you were looking for.
Okay, Danny, just 19 minutes and 43 seconds gone, and it's 0-0. But what a great game of rugby. Well, there's a lot of mistakes, but it's really exciting.
Yeah, but that's the pressure. It's both teams not letting anyone, not giving each other an inch. Any mistake is being punished, and you're going from 122 to the other. Ulster have had the best chances so far. Two entries to Connacht's 22, coming away with nothing. So advantage Connacht there, but we need to get into their 22 and try and get some points.
We certainly do. We'll talk again on half-time, and hopefully we'll have a score, at least one score to talk about. Okay, Danny, it's half-time. Ulster lead 3 points to 5, so we did have a couple of scores. But it's, I don't know, something wrong with Connacht. They made an awful lot of handling errors tonight.
They have, but it is wet, I give a little bit of a benefit of the doubt, but it is a bit of an issue we've had this season. Ulster have dominated that half. They had the most chances, but Connacht's defence has been good. They've only let them in once, and it's only 2 points in it. I feel like as the game goes on, if Ulster are going to keep wasting chances and Connacht can keep taking theirs, I think this game is still this game is still in the balance. Ulster haven't walked away with it. I'd be well pissed off if I was an Ulster fan. They've all that territory, all that possession, and they haven't got anything for it.
Yeah, and it was only a mistake by Connacht to let them in. It's still all to play for, as Danny said. All right, Danny, it's 60 minutes. Just heard Connacht are losing now by 8 points to 19. Jack just missed a very kickable conversion. It's been all Ulster up until about 2 minutes ago. Can't see Connacht winning this one.
I don't know, like when Ulster came out the blocks firing, they upped the pace, we didn't handle it, and we didn't clear our lines well enough, and Ulster punished us for it. But our bench have come on, they're really bouncing, we've just got to try. This game isn't over yet.
80 minutes up, Connacht just scored a try. The score is Ulster 22, Connacht 20. Jack Carty has a kick from the 5 metre line on the far side, just outside the 22 to get the draw.
Okay, Danny. Connacht bouncers almost bounced well enough to get that victory. They lost 22-20. The simple misconversion Jack had in the second half is the one that cost us, not the one from the sideline that he just missed. Too many mistakes from Connacht. Well done for Ulster, but I don't know. I thought there was a much bigger gap in the game than 2 points.
So did I, but I guess that's the fight in Connacht, that you have to put them away. You just have to knock them out. Now, I'm still annoyed though. I feel like Ulster came out the blocks in the second half. They put us away. They took the foot off the gas, and it was purely from Connacht mistakes, not kicking out of it, not clearing well enough. We gave them 2 opportunities early in the second half, and Ulster capitalised. That's not good enough, and it was Connacht mistakes, and Ulster punished us. I think Ulster got lucky there, if I'm honest, but we should have been dead and buried. But fair play for coming back.
Yeah, but it was too late. Too little, too late. They played. Actually, my problem was we made a whole load of mistakes until the last 10 minutes, and then we stopped making mistakes. And once we stopped making mistakes, we showed we could play. But it was just too much of that early in the game. But I think the better team won.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Now, the bench made a massive difference, and I feel like a lot of guys have definitely put up their hand to go after a few starters for next week. Because, again, going to play in Leinster at home, that's not an easy task, and there's no pressure on us. So it'll be interesting to see what the team will be next week after that display from the bench.
It certainly will, but I think that's the chances. Any chance of getting into the playoffs are now dead, and maybe they're just going to have to focus on the Challenge Cup, but we'll just wait and see. Okay, here's the post-match interviews.
Andy, bizarre end to the game. Great character. I guess we have to start with that and acknowledge that, but it wasn't a brilliant performance by any stretch of the imagination from Connacht on 75 minutes. It was looking like a really disappointed defeat.
Yeah, and that's how I'll remember it as a really disappointing defeat. As you say, it's you can't play 75 minutes of footy like that and expect to get a win. Now, we nearly snuck a draw, but wasn't to be.
I mean, make sense of what changed, I suppose, in those closing stages. Was it just throw the ball about, see what happens?
Yeah, with off that last kick-off, we had no choice but to throw it about.
But even before that kind of just the sense that there was still something to chase.
Yeah, I actually set up in the box with 13 minutes to go when we were 12 points down, or it wasn't 12, but 11 points down. I said, we can score. We can score 2 tries here and win this. They got that kick to make it 14. We can still score 2. But we just, again, what had happened in the previous sort of 72 minutes, we just kept coughing up ball. We'd start to string something together, and then there'd be a simple knock-on or a simple turnover or a penalty that relieves pressure or whatever. So it was just a frustrating game, Rob.
There is that sense this season, like Connacht again are solid in the games they should win. That's 6 wins out of 7 running into this. But when you come up against a side that are properly ahead of you in the table, just the performances don't seem to be there. Thomond Park could be an example. This is another example. Maybe even the Leinster game earlier this year.
Yeah, I think. Listen, that game, I'll just concentrate on that game tonight. That game tonight, to me, was a great opportunity for us to make a statement, and unfortunately we didn't make a statement. I felt our preparation leading into it was good. We had a chunk of bodies rested. Was that the right thing to do? We felt at the time it was to try and freshen players up, but maybe upon reflection we could have kept a few blokes ticking over and given a bit more game time. I'm not sure, but so we'll definitely reflect upon that. But it certainly wasn't the performance we were looking for out there tonight, nor expecting.
How frustrating is it to play against Ulster? Like, just before that last 5-minute spell, they had 70% territory nearly, just short of it, and 65 possession. That must be so frustrating for your lads. Yeah,
well, again, I thought, I didn't feel that they were ever going to break us down other than the maul. And we were defending, then we give away a dumbass penalty, so we go to the corner and they get a try. Then we defend, dumbass penalty into the corner, try. And then we had another one where it got held up, so we saved that. I thought our defence was outstanding tonight, but when they get within 5 metres of the try line with their maul, they're a damn hard team to stop. So, but we've got to be better at not giving away those penalties that give them the access to that. But they did. They held onto the ball well. They play a pretty simple game. You know what's coming, but if you give them the access, they're gonna hurt you.
What has to change for Connacht to stop giving away these penalties at key points in big games?
Well, it's probably not even the penalties as such. It was our possession. Like we turned over way too much possession again. Simple stuff like blokes carrying into contact and turn it over, knocking on from a high ball. Just simple knock-on stuff thrown into touch, like kicking out in the full, not kicking out in the full when we get a penalty. Like, some of that sort of stuff's just to me, it's unexcusable. So they're the things that we need to fix, and we need to look really hard as to how we're going to fix that.
Oliver, you haven't even had your post-game meal yet, so we won't keep you too long. Talk to me about what that must feel like, because it was a kind of a strange roller coaster of emotions at the end there.
Yeah, look, obviously it went down to the wire. Probably nearly waited to the last 20 minutes just to kind of start playing a bit of rugby when we started chasing the win. Credit to the lads, we dug in for that 80 minutes. Obviously, look, it's massively disappointing, but we shouldn't have we put ourselves in that place to be that far behind on the scoreboard. So I know we came close at the end, but it wasn't good enough from us as a team for the first 70 minutes of that game.
And in terms of where you were, what do Ulster do to make it such a frustrating game to watch from your perspective?
From our perspective, obviously we know that they have a decent maul and stuff, but from our perspective, it was individual error that led us down. Missed touches, maybe drop balls, stupid penalties inside their own 22, and just kept giving them the ball back and allowing them to put pressure on us. I don't feel in defence I felt very comfortable. I didn't feel like they were a threat in attack at all. But then we defend for maybe 10, 15 phases and then have a stupid penalty. They kick to the corner, 5 metre maul, and end up scoring off it. I think that was the tail of the game from what I can remember. And that's how I feel it went. I think we put ourselves in positions to let them score, really.
I can't help but wonder if it's the penalties are coming from your frustrations and maybe the lack of fluidity in your possession periods, where you're on the attack. Is there a little bit of a link to that, where just things aren't coming together and then the frustration kicks in?
No, I don't think so. I think if you give the opposition enough ball to play with, you're going to give away penalties. It's the way the game works. So we need to keep more possession. We need to maybe play territory a bit better. I'd love to see the percentages of the possession from the game, but I'm sure it's very high for Ulster. But yeah, once again, we need to brush up on our personal errors if we want to keep competing at this high level.
Yeah, what do you think? A lot of players had the break. Andy suggested. I wonder now. Ulster came into this as a very just two changes from the European side. Do you think in an ideal situation you'd be running into this off 3 games, or do you understand that the wider squad got a chance?
No, look, understand the wider squad gets a chance. There's a squad of 40 odd players. Lads need to play in case obviously injuries happen as well. So I don't think that's an excuse we can use. I think a lot of guys are fresh coming into this game. Look, we've been on the back of two big losses similar to Ulster before, and it always kind of merits a response somewhere. But in saying that, I still think we gave them the ball to beat us. Like, you know, I still don't feel like they play very good rugby, if I'm being honest. I feel like we defended well, but if you give a team 5 million balls, they're gonna score some of them, you know.
Just to finish, that frantic finish has probably left Connacht fans going home with a bit of sense of pride and hope, if you like, but you didn't get the job done. Like, where's your mind on that? That was a really, really good burst of action, almost got over the line. It could have been a huge 2 points.
Yeah, I understand his frustration when it goes down to the last kick of a game, but like I said before, like we shouldn't be in that position at the start, but we were. And look, once I said credit to the lads, they dug in deep. It's tough to come back. You need 2 scores in 10 minutes, I think. And they dug in deep, but it's just a little late for us. So yeah, that's everything really.
Dan, after a run of tough games, that was another
tough game.
It was another tough game, but it was a solid second half, and it just at the end. But look, it's the points. You got the points. You got the win.
Yeah, look, you know, you guys know how it is when you're maybe on a run where you haven't been playing as well as you want in parts. Although, having said that, over the last 3 games, like we've had some tremendous periods. We've been playing some pretty good teams, and you don't turn that around straight away. I thought there were large portions of tonight's game where I thought we played really well, particularly in that third quarter where we playing into the wind, but decided to pile on the pressure. And scored points, but you know there are other elements where you know we're still seeing parts of our game that genuinely have to increase. But overall, you know, I'm really pleased with the win. You know, we came down, Conor absolutely full strength. You know, stated aim that this was a decisive game in their season. The Christmas game, which is notoriously difficult to travel for. And you know the lads came away with the result.
Yeah, the start of the second half seemed to be your best period. What did you say at half time? Because the accuracy and the intensity were there the minute the referee blew the whistle for the second half. You upped it.
Well, that's literally what we talked about. Like we'd earned ourselves 5 opportunities in Connacht's 22 in the first half, and we'd scored from one of them. And the only thing that was letting us down there was our ball presentation and the speed of our ruck ball, or the cleanness of our ruck ball. And I think we made a line out error as well, but you know we just needed to up the accuracy and the intensity in that area. And you know Conor were defending well, but in the second half we managed to hang on to the ball for much longer periods. Difficult conditions, you know, they're difficult conditions, but you know we managed to eke out penalties, put pressure on their kicking game, even when they had the wind, and that allowed us opportunities to get our maul going.
And just looking at the end, were you getting, was it really squeaky bum time there if Connacht to come back?
What do you think? Yeah, it's like that would be standard Connacht though, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You know, how many times have you guys been up here and you've watched that kind of situation where you know teams come here, they eke out a lead, and then they're hanging on desperately at the end. Like, Rob, you've been watching Connacht rugby for a lot longer than I have. Like, you guys know this, and you know, and more often than not, end up winning. So, you know, like at the time, I didn't want us to kick for goal to go to 22-90 or to go to 22 points. You know, I thought our maul was going well enough for us to be able to get a try, and then we'd have put it to bed for real. But you know, I don't know. We'll never know. It might have been a really good idea, mightn't it?
Okay, we're in the Colley room. We've just heard from Andy Friend and Conor Oliver, and there's hopefully also a bit of Dan McFarland in there. There is. Excellent. Okay, Rob, your thoughts on a very bad result?
Yeah, it is a bad result. That's it, isn't it? It's just a really bad outcome. Like, as I was saying, I mean, a draw would have been a fantastic snatch and grab. And I don't think we would have been, I think honestly we'd all be here just really disappointed with the 75 minutes we had put in. Oh, yeah. But we can build on moments like that. And it's an awful way to start, but like, Jack missed 2 conversions tonight. All right, the touchline right hand one is what it is, but the easier one as well. So, sometimes these things start to come to a head there where you need to get your kicks. So that's disappointing, but I certainly wouldn't pin it on Jack when the entire team failed to show up for 70 minutes.
For me, I know the focus point is the kicks because it's points, but what killed us was coming out of the changing room and just not turning up and not clearing our 22 well enough. We cleared it twice, once just outside the 22, and the other one we didn't even get out of the 22. It's two very easy options. That's giving it to them on a plate. That's not acceptable. It took us 60 minutes to kick the ball down 50 metres. Bad errors, and Ulster made us pay.
That's something we complained about a lot last season, and it actually was back there because one of them was Jack Carty clearing. It wasn't enough from Jack, but it was after an amazing turnover on their own line, which changed a game.
Well, it does, and if you look at it then, just to follow on from that, on 65 minutes, Jack does, or in and around that sort of time, Jack does kick the ball a mile down the field, and from the ensuing plays, we score the try that then he misses the conversion from. But Lindley, what are your thoughts after that?
Well, they knew what was coming. We all knew what was coming from Ulster. And it was like they weren't kind of prepared for it. And as you've said yourself, the other thing is that they were actually just made too many errors. They didn't look like a team that was actually operating at sort of 100% at all, I thought, for some reason. And they just let Ulster take control. And we knew that that's what Ulster had planned to do. They were really hurting very badly when they come down here. We all knew it. And it was almost like they weren't prepared for that. And I think combined with the fact that they made so many mistakes and the fact that Ulster were up for this game, it just all counted against them.
At the captain's lunch yesterday, I don't normally ask questions, but I had to ask one of Andy at the end where I asked him how important momentum was. Because I wanted, and he answered the question that I really wanted to ask, but I was only alluding to. The team seemed to be in flying form, bouncing around, having fun, enjoying themselves. And I was looking at it going, they're doing a little bit too much of that, almost too much confidence.
Yeah, because you saw what happened to Newcastle the week after we kind of struggled really we didn't get a bonus point, so fell short, I would argue, in that fixture. On the basis of the game that was in front of us, let alone the heavy defeat there the following week. And then Brive, you're that far up with an extra man, you were there, Alan, but you can't really accept that way that second half went. And then this. So yeah, Connacht under Andy Friend get results against teams they should get results against on a consistent basis like never before. But lately in the bigger games, maybe not. I thought it was interesting too that he said, because you mentioned momentum, I heard that in the podcast. It's interesting that he's starting to wonder whether he should have made as many changes, and maybe there's something to that. I was really stunned to see after what happened to Ulster in Europe that they only made, was it 2 changes coming into this? Just the 2, Doak coming in, and they were both injury enforced changes. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, it looked as though our guys hadn't played, a lot of our guys who hadn't played for 2 weeks, looked as though they hadn't played for 2 weeks.
But this comes back to the thing that they were talking about. They wanted rotation from the start of the year. They've been doing it all year. They have been making these changes. It hasn't been like that. It kind of felt like, to me, Ulster badly needed that, and they came down to prove a point, and they did that just after half time.
What point did it prove, though? As in,
the
way they played. Yeah.
They won.
And is that,
they won.
That's
it. They needed a win. They've come off 3 really bad losses. They won. That's it.
Yeah.
Job done. Dan inside was like a pig in shit. Seriously, the man is grinning ear to ear.
Awfully relieved, I think, Basically, when we were chatting to him, he was just, he was awfully relieved. He was extremely very chatty. He could have stayed there probably chatting for a lot longer had he not been forced to sort of disappear very quickly. So, I think that he was the bigger, he was the person. It was really Ulster's game to come down here and win.
Yeah.
And they needed it more than Connacht needed it.
Yeah, it felt like if it was a movie script, like a predictable movie script, it felt like they were the protagonists tonight, with the happy ending coming from them and a bit of drama. And we never seemed to be more than just a secondary character in the contest.
Yeah, we were bullied. I haven't seen us bullied like that in quite a while. I thought it was quite a bad bullying. But,
because that's the one thing. When I've been worried about where we are, the one thing I see ground on is physically we're better. But Josh Murphy wasn't great tonight, was he? He came off very early.
He was very unhappy.
Right. What's going on there? Did he play well and was unjustly taken off, or was he not playing well?
I think he was just outplayed by Ian Henderson, who I thought was phenomenal again. Anytime that man is on the field against us, we struggle. He's just a force of nature. He really, really is.
I'd agree with the bullying, but to me that only started in the second half.
Yeah.
We were well in that in the first half, and again I just don't know what happened at half time.
You can say that, but we didn't score. That was the problem. We didn't do anything in the first half.
Yeah.
We didn't have enough ball to actually do anything with them. When we did have it, we made a hell of a lot of it. We made mistakes.
Yeah.
So I thought it was actually the first half that was worse than the second half, because I would have expected Connacht to come out really at home, before Christmas, great crowd here tonight, and be really on the ball and start really aggressively and fast and take control. And in fact, they just didn't. They didn't at all.
They had 5 visits to our 22. By my count, we had 1 visit to their 22 in that first half. And our defence was actually quite good in some of those. But let's think of American football context. The defence were doing their job. The offence, where were they? There was nothing.
Well, I was saying this in the crowd. I was blaming William. Because Connacht's backs.
It's funny that
suddenly,
you're here right now when you're blaming him.
Absolutely. Well, I wanted to wait until you arrived into the room before I blamed them.
Okay, fair.
Connacht's backs started to run the ball from behind their own goal line. We haven't seen that since the first year of Pat Lam. And I think that's because William Davis keeps asking questions at press conferences about the backs not being as good as forwards.
Well, they're not. I'm afraid tonight.
Funny and true.
They didn't really contribute an awful lot of that game until the last few minutes, when they had to throw caution to the wind. And Ulster backed off a bit and got a bit shaky. And it came down to one kick. Jack Carty didn't have a good night, really, and that kick didn't go over. So Ulster get on their bus reasonably happy, I think, and Connacht now have to contemplate a big problem.
Kieran Marmion comes off the bench, David Hawkshaw comes off the bench, and Adam Byrne comes off the bench.
Peter Dooley, he came on like a man.
Oh, no, sorry, I just want to make this point first. I'm talking about the back line. I hear you. Dooley was superb. But no, the back line is just like, I never feel like we have the most informed best players on the pitch at any one point in time throughout this season. And this is another night. Now, I want to be clear here. I didn't come into this game going, why have we picked this back line? So I'm not like, this is hindsight, of course. But still, the best back line were on the pitch at the end.
I was actually surprised Adam Byrne didn't start that match.
Agreed.
I really was,
Agreed.
given how he performed the last time out. And I thought he was a pure, a sitter for starting. So I was quite surprised with that selection.
Yeah, and the other thing for me was that of the 2 number 12s, Stuart McCloskey won that at a canter.
Yeah, he did. He's nearly impossible to stop unless you get really low. So you finish it with players just hanging off him. And if he can offload, then you've got space. He doesn't do an awful lot else. That's his speciality, but he's very good at it. I think the Adam Byrne one is how long did he play last week?
He started in Brive and they took him off after about 48, 49 minutes.
I see. I think that would be their concern starting him. I don't think they see him with his fitness level.
Wouldn't you start him and then take him off?
Yeah, well, they did that last week, but I think we've got to see more of him.
Lads, we have to sort out fullback. Let's just, come on, we're talking seriously here. Tiernan O'Halloran isn't good enough at the moment. He's just not.
He's not, and he's,
Someone just needs to, we just need to call it.
I think it's a problem. They don't actually have a fullback that they really 100% trust. John Porch will be the next one to go in there, I think. And I'm not sure that that's his best position either.
And I just bring up Shane Jennings, and I know if they're not going to trust him, I'd rather see a kid that there could be a future for, give him the game time, rather than Tiernan, who no one seems to be happy with, and he's gone.
No, he wasn't bad the whole game, but he wasn't great, and there wasn't a spark in him. But then right at the end, just before he went off, he made three errors, one compounded the other. And I think there was a confidence thing with him. I think he's a confidence player. I think he's a long-standing servant. I'm putting provisors on it. We just got to be honest, though. It's just not good enough tonight. We need to be better in full-back.
I would agree. It's a professional game.
Yeah.
There's you can't look back on what someone's done 10, 12 years ago and all the way through, and he has been an unbelievable servant.
But lad, what am I missing? Because all of you, well, Alan, you don't think that I'm right, or is it Packy when I say Conor Fitzgerald is the best? I've been told, no, he's not. And I've seen him make mistakes, but I still think he's our best fullback.
I still like him at fullback, I have to say. Yeah, I really do.
I'm not sure after last week, I have to say. I've never, under the high ball, I thought he was very, very dodgy last week.
How many European games has he played?
To me, it's not so much how many games he's played, it's how confident he looks or doesn't under a high ball.
Right, and so the more he plays, the better he's going to get.
I don't think he wants to play at full-back. I think he's no interest in it whatsoever. And I think that shows in his approach to it. He wants to be an out half, and that's it.
Look, there's a bottom line here, and I wonder what you all think about this, but the playoffs are slipping away now. Let's be realistic. We can't win any big games. We can't win big games. We can be consistent in the games, but every time a team that's all round solid comes up against us, we lose, and we've lost again. And I think this is the bottom line. Challenge Cup has opportunities because it's a crap competition with a few good teams, so we should go far in it. But what are we going to do in the URC?
Well, I'm not really overly bothered about the playoffs. I just want to qualify for the top 8.
Yeah, to get back into the main tournament.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
That's
I call it playoffs, but
yeah.
I mean Champions Cup qualification. But the playoffs are part of the playoffs. Create a bit of excitement as well.
Of course they do, but I think the top priority is actually just to get into the top 8. And that's going to be an extremely difficult, challenge now.
It's just not happening, to be honest.
Well, even if they get 8th, they won't get in because one of the Scottish teams will take their place. They need to finish about 6th. And I can't see it. They just don't have enough games left. And if they lose against Leinster, which they probably will, because most teams lose against Leinster, and Leinster will just toddle along to 10-0 or 11-0. It'll be 11-0 because I think they'll beat Munster. The problem is they'll have won 1 out of 6 Interpros. It's these Interpro games that kill them because the whole season.
That's fair enough, but then you're talking about Glasgow and you're talking about Edinburgh and the fact that they're going to take Connacht's place even if Connacht did finish within 8. And you see, that's not fair either because Irish rugby has the best rugby in the URC.
The IRFU voted for it, and I don't know why they voted for it, but they did. And it'll finish after this season because the IRFU and the South Africans are going to blow it out of the water. But they did, and the only team that really got screwed by that was Connacht, because essentially Munster, Ulster and Leinster are always going to finish ahead of them, and I think Munster will this year as well.
But I will say this. We're not a Champions Cup team. We're not good enough to be in the Champions Cup at the moment. And we didn't. That whole rule didn't affect us last year. In terms of it could affect us this year, but we got to play better rugby before we can start moaning about that.
I think we have huge potential to be a Champions Cup team. I think.
Do you?
I actually do. I think when you look at how the pack. Not today, has performed heretofore. I think the pack is really going places. I think it's been a very efficient pack, much more so this season than a lot of other seasons. I also think there is a huge talent now also in the backline when you add in the likes of Byrne, Adam Byrne and Hawkshaw. And so I think it has potential, but I guess it's just how you actually get that to be delivered.
Was this the right game to put Cian Prendergast at 8 because he looked like a fish out of water in the first half and he kept dropping the ball because he was in the wrong place. He looked a bit lost. Now, it was a little better in the second half, but I'm just wondering, was that a funny game to do that in, to actually ask him to go and play somewhere in a big game where we haven't seen him?
I'd say he probably went and grabbed it with 2 hands. He's probably been trying to get in there. Like, he needs to show that he's dynamic. For him to get into the Ireland team, he needs to show that he's got versatility. He struggled there tonight, and yeah, maybe it was the wrong idea to do it. But I feel like if I was keen, I'd be like, yeah, let's go for the challenge. It didn't work out tonight.
And the other thing is, Andy Friend brought it up. They rested players. They didn't play for 3 weeks.
Yeah, we were saying that at the top, and Ulster looked sharper.
Yeah, and you just wonder, the medical guys and the minute counters and the clickers will tell you they've played this, they've done that, they've run this number of yards. Maybe that needs to be more on gut feeling, or just talk to the player. Now, every player will probably say, I want to play. But some of them tonight didn't look switched on at the start, and that cost them, at the end, that cost them.
I'd love to see the following players playing against Leinster based on a full 40-person room chat. This is my dream scenario, because someone comes in and goes, I'm picking the best 15 in terms of form and attitude for the Leinster game. And who would I put in there? Peter Dooley off tonight, straight in for me. Dave Heffernan, off the bench, did that, international player. Why not? Put him in. He deserves to be in there. I'd like to see Darren Murray in there. Love his attitude. Just throw him straight in there and say, yeah, we're going to give a young lad a slot in there. David Hawkshaw, Adam Byrne, based on if we agree that he can start. And Kieran Marmion. They'd be the players that I'd be saying right now, throw them all in. They've all done enough from the bench. They all deserve to go. Seamus Hurley-Langton too.
I think Peter Dooley, we saw it last week, and you wonder, can he still do those offloads? Well, he did a couple tonight in a totally different game. And I think, there's a big squad there, and they've got to start winning. There's no more room not to win, and I think there may well have to be some real shake-up.
I think Connacht almost looks like, and it's no disrespect, but it's almost like a development squad. And when I say that, I mean it's a new look squad that is developing. So I don't mean it in a negative sense, but it has that feel about it. It doesn't have that kind of that finished quality yet. It's got potential and there's huge talent there, but it's not just quite finished. And hopefully that'll be sooner rather than later.
Yeah, well, Glasgow beating Edinburgh tonight. We're still only 4 points away from. No. What I'm saying is that there's actually still time. We still have the situation that other teams are beating them themselves, and that maybe they'll have a chance to get this squad thing fixed as the season comes into its real denouement.
Yeah, but it's coming down to not being able to control your fate. You don't want to be relying on anybody else.
I thought it was interesting too. Tom Stewart played 80 minutes tonight, so did John Cooney. So sometimes when the bigger teams come against us, they go, oh no, I'm leaving the 15 players are going to win the game on it. So at some point, maybe, I think after the new year, after what we've seen here, I think they're going to get a bit more ruthless in team selections. And I think a smaller core of 26, 27 players will be seeing action and a lot of others won't.
Yeah, that's a possibility. They have a lot of serious home games coming. Sharks and the Lions could be anything. They could also come and get on that surface, and it's a nice, reasonably unwindy day, and it could get really nasty. Yeah. But they've just got to gear up for them, and then they've got two vital away. All they can do is go game to game and try to win. They'll beat Brive, who will send nobody, and then Newcastle will become a talisman type game, and see if you can actually get a home 16, a home quarter final. But performance like that tonight is just so frustrating, and so, I don't know, you get angry watching it, because you saw at the end, Ulster, once you put Ulster under any pressure, they fell apart. And I mean, John Cooney was standing there with his head in his hands. We've just talked to young Stuart, the hooker. He said it was, they were thinking this is 22-all. And that, there was a missed conversion earlier on by Connacht.
That would be huge with him for our season.
Oh, completely, to come back and actually win. But coming back and losing by 2 points isn't worth a damn.
It means nothing.
It means nothing. It's just, that's professional, hard-edged sport. They got 4 points. Connacht got 1 point. It's not enough at the minute.
Happy Christmas, everyone.
Okay, I think we'll finish on that note. Thank you, Rob. Thanks, Lindley. Thanks, William. And thanks, Danny. We'll talk to you again later in the week, folks.
Loose, cut it loose. Break out or nothing changes. Sad